Good morning everyone. The film is set in India where you see a famous young man at a big party and people concentrate with him during the shooting, but the young man ignores them all and chooses to dance with a girl named Richie who seems to be at the top of the happiness. Richie suddenly wakes up to her mother's voice and discovers that she was just dreaming. Richie is an overweight girl although she loves her shape, but her mother says her weight is an obstacle in her life and may be the reason why she doesn't marry. Richie's mother talks to her daughter about a future groom and asks her to prepare quickly, and suddenly, the groom and his family arrive and we discover that his name is Tito. Richie tries to get to know Tito and asks her about her dreams, and Tito responds by saying that he owns a record store and wants to open more than one store, but Richie is surprised because she feels that her ambition is strange. Richie starts talking about herself and says her life dream is to become a presenter, and then she asks her to watch her videos, but Tito mocks her dream and says a presenter must be gracious. Richie is fully aware that Tito doesn't want to marry him, but his parents forced him to come to Richie's house, which starts to create excuses to end the marriage, but Tito finally decides to admit the truth. Tito says he won't marry a fat girl like Richie and then advises her to lose weight if she wants to work or get married, and Richie's mother seems very upset that her daughter has reached the age of 30 and hasn't yet married because of her excess weight. Elsewhere in India, a beautiful girl named Saira, who was in a clothing store, is trying to buy new clothes to wear for a party tonight, but the dress she is measuring is torn because of her excess weight. Saira fights with the shop owner and tells him that he falsifies the sizes that seem small, although they write on the XL double-waisted dresses, but the employee tries to convince Saira by saying that the problem is his excess weight, not the sizes. The employee fails to convince Saira, who leaves the shop after buying the clothes she needs at the party of her lover Frank, who invited her to the party himself. Saira works as a fashion designer and hopes to find a financier for her work. Frank works as a model and intends to work with Saira, but his friend is uncomfortable with Frank because she feels that he is trying to take advantage of Saira, who fights with his friend and asks him not to talk about his lover Frank badly because she loves and trusts him. At night, Saira goes to the party and finds Frank, who introduces her to her friends, then receives a call from her brother, who tells her that he has found a producer for her film, which talks about fashion. Saira is delighted and then decides to tell Frank the news, but she is shocked when she notices that her friends intimidate her because of her excess weight and say that Frank doesn't like her because he's trying to use her to enter the fashion world. We come back to Richie, who confesses to her parents that she would like to work as a presenter and says she has an appointment for an interview on a major channel tomorrow morning, but her mother completely rejects the idea but arrives at a solution after a long discussion. Richie's mother allows her daughter Richie to travel and work as she wishes if she succeeds in an interview tomorrow, but she will be forced to marry the first man if she fails in the interview, which will be held in the Indian city of Delhi. We go to Saira, who is surprised by the visit of her brother, who looks at her creations and visibly loves her sister's work, and asks her questions about the director who will produce the new film, and Saira says that the director is one of her boyfriend Frank's friends. Saira decides to visit her boyfriend Frank for dinner with him, but she is shocked when she discovers that Frank was hiding a girl on the balcony and realizes that he is cheating on her. Then she decides to stand and cry alone and feels regret because she did not believe her friend's words. The next day, Richie goes to the company where she will conduct the interview and sits in the waiting room with the rest of the girls who will take part in the interview. Richie's turn comes and the employee refuses to let her in, arguing that another girl has been accepted and that there is no need to interview Richie, who gets very angry and tries to convince her but fails. Richie discovers that the presenter is chosen on the basis of form and weight before anything else, then asks to meet herself with the chain manager, but the employee apologizes to her and tells her that the chain manager has surrendered in London. Saira tries to find a solution for the film with her brother and her friend because she can't find a director for the film after breaking up with Frank because he cheated on her, but Saira is frustrated because the film producer is waiting for her in London and she's not ready yet. Saira comes into the bathroom and starts crying, then she tries to look for a tissue but is surprised by throwing him the box of tissues, and it seems that Richie is in the bathroom and she is crying too. Saira and Richie get to know each other and try to console each other, and Richie says she's afraid to return to her parents after failing the interview because she doesn't want to get married. Richie asks Saira to watch her videos and tells her that she is the one who made and shot the videos. Saira asks Richie to become the director of her film that will be shot in London. Richie realizes that the opportunity is good to meet the manager of the channel, who is in London, and then accepts Saira's offer, despite the fact that she has no experience in the field of fashion photography. Saira meets her brother and tells him that Richie is the one who will be the director of the film and that they are ready to go to London. Richie calls her mother and lies to her, telling her that she has been accepted for an advertiser position and will go to London to record the program. Richie is forced to stay in Saira's apartment for a few days until the date of the trip arrives. Then the two girls get to know each other more and become friends. On the day of the trip, Saira and Richie arrive in London with the person in charge of the filming of the film named Sharon, and then they go with the driver of the film producer named Luke to the hotel and decide to sleep in a room for a lack of budget. Richie is afraid that the film will not succeed because of her, because she has never made a film like this before, but Saira tries to calm her down. The next day, the three are about to meet the producer of the film, and the surprise is that the producer of the film is the same driver, Luke. Saira would like to shoot the film to convince any financier to agree to open a shop selling his fashion. Luke says his budget is limited and he is unable to bring famous models. Then the three decide to tour the city to get to know it better and choose the locations of the film. Along the way, Luke starts looking for a pretty girl to convince her to wear Saira's costumes to avoid spending a lot of money so that the photos are more spontaneous, and the idea seems to work. Everyone managed to finish a large part of the film, although most of them are still beginners and have no experience in the field. Luke suddenly enters and says that one of the athletes is with them in London. Luke says he managed to get an appointment with the athlete so that Richie could do a press interview with him, and tells him it's the chance of his life, because the channels will pursue her if she passes the press interview with the athlete. On the day of the interview, Richie is very nervous, but Saira stands by her side, and it is clear that the famous athlete is impressed by Richie's performance and says he did the best interview of his life. At night, the four go out to celebrate Richie's success and feel proud of the accomplishment they have achieved and drink a lot of wine, and on the way back, the four meet the chain owner who refused to hire Richie at the start of the film's events. Everyone asks the owner of the channel to watch the video of Richie's press interview with the famous athlete, so that he agrees to hire him. Then the man takes the video and promises to watch it later. Richie discovers that they gave the channel owner the video in which they were dancing together at the bar and not the video of the press interview. Then she spends the days alone because of the sorrow, and Saira tries to console her. Richie says her mother called her and told her about marriage, and Richie seems to be afraid that she won't be able to realize her dreams because her mother could force her to marry without accomplishing anything in her life. Saira decides to go out with Richie to eat. Then they start mocking people's views of the fat girl, and they think society oppresses the fat girl because it is not her right to work or find a man to love her. Then both are frustrated. Saira suddenly goes back to the hotel with Richie and then tells everyone that she is considering not designing suits for a certain category of people in exchange for designing suits that anyone can wear, regardless of weight or social class. Saira starts looking for big role models so that people can see that the costumes Saira designs are for everyone. Saira is proud of herself because she was able to realize the dream of big girls. One day, Saira has a broken foot, then she is rushed to the hospital, then she recovers and just needs rest, and it is clear that movie producer Luke is afraid for her because he has a crush on her. Saira gets a call from her ex-boyfriend Frank, who is trying to get back to her, but she hesitates to answer him until Luke steps in and answers Frank and fights with him, and it seems that Saira is happy because she loves him too. One day, the four meet in the room to watch TV and suddenly Richie gets a call from her mother who starts to doubt her because she hasn't appeared on any show yet and then forces her back to India to get married. Richie remains depressed, but Sharon tries to get her out of her sorrow but fails, and it is clear that he loves her and is willing to do anything for her. All four have finished shooting the film, although Saira is worried because she thinks the idea of the film may not like financiers, but she is proud of herself because she was able to do something useful for everyone. Richie gets a call from the owner of the channel who tells him that he watched the press interview in which she was with the famous athlete and assures him that he is so impressed by his performance that he agrees to hire him as an advertiser of the sports program that is broadcast on his channel. Richie is delighted and discovers that it was Sharon who posted the video of the press interview on the internet when he noticed that she was upset, and it seems that Richie has become a fan of him too. The next day, Richie goes back to India and tells her family that she had the opportunity to work for a good amount of money and asks her mother to stop thinking that her excess weight could be an obstacle in her life. A few days later, the date of Saira's fashion show comes and the surprise is that she chooses Richie to be the fashion show champion and then says the costumes she designs are for all categories. Financiers are impressed by Saira's idea and then agree to finance her project, and at the end of the film, Saira and Richie were able to realize their dream without succumbing to the society's vision towards them and were able to solve their weight problem after a long struggle against excess weight.